Hey everybody, I'm Joseph Goslan, your retail navigator for the Dallas-Fort Worth and the founder of Eureka Business Group. Today we're talking about trends in 2026 retail real estate. And one of the things that we expect to dominate is the shrinking of the footprint of all those stores. We recently noticed a lot of large retailers all around the country shrinking their footprints. We're talking about giants like Macy's and Target and Kohl's that are shrinking down to about a fifth of the size of their usual stores. We're talking about retailers like IKEA with their plan and order studio. We're talking about Whole Foods daily shop kind of concept, Bloomies by Bloomingdale, mini CVS's. We've seen all these retailers moving into a smaller footprint. One of the biggest trends in 2025 was all those little coffee drive-through places like Seven Brews and Dutch Bros and Black Rifle Coffee and all these guys that are shrinking to about 600 to 800 square feet, tiny footprint. But it's not just the large retailers that we see going into the shrink mode. We've seen local mom and pop shops, we see local retailer also trying to find smaller footprints. If a restaurant owner used to call us and say, hey, I'm looking for a restaurant place that's going to be about 25 to 3,000 square feet, today we help them find restaurant places that are 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. So what does it mean for the owners of retail real estate, whether you're a developer or you already have an existing shopping center? If you're building a new retail building, you need to pre-design it for smaller units. It means more doors, more AC units, more back doors, and accessibility to all those locations. So build and design for smaller footprint. I'd probably recommend units as small as 1,500 square feet or 2,000 square feet. We're also talking about existing shopping centers, and sometimes you have what you have, right? So you need to work with your team to see, do I have the options to split the units? It also means you probably need to prepare a CapEx budget for those splitting of those units if you have larger vacant spaces. So that was the trend for shrinking footprint. We have 8 more trends that we're going to cover in the next few videos. Retail landlords have changed their mind. Historically, retail leases used to be long-term with increases at renewal. For example, you would have a 5-year lease with 10% increase at the end of the 5 years, then another 5 years, and another 10% increase, and so on. What we've seen right now, and it started back in 2025, and it's carrying forward to 2026, is that landlords no longer like this format. In 2026, what we see is leases being written with annual rent increases of about 2 to 4%, depending on the landlord and the tenant and so on. But we see that as an annual increment. The landlord can keep up with inflation. The property value goes up year over year. They don't have to wait until the end of the 5 years. It helps them a lot when they go do a refi in the middle of that 5-year period. So that's how they ask us, the brokers, to write their leases in 2026. Hey everybody, Joseph Goslan, your retail navigator for the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Business owners always ask me, what's the best place to put my business? Should I go there or should I go into this shopping center or that shopping center? Well, here's the answer based on one of the biggest trends we've seen happen in 2025 and we predict is going to continue in 2026. And the answer to that question is you want to be placed in a shopping center next to a big grocery chain. It doesn't matter if it's Walmart or Kroger or TomTom or H-E-B. You want to be in that shopping center next to that big anchor grocery store. And the reason for that is that it brings traffic, it brings visibility. People still go to the grocery stores, even though they might give up a lot of different other luxuries. Grocery store is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And if you're in Texas, especially in North Texas in the last year and a half, you want to be next to an H-E-B. This is a Texas thing. You want to be right next door to H-E-B because that parking lot is packed full every day, all day long. I don't remember going to an H-E-B store and not having the parking lot packed to the brim. So hands down, one of the biggest trends that's going to carry forward into 2026 is the retail around those grocery anchors is going to be more popular. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it for the traffic and the visibility that the business owner is getting. For the landlords and the investors, if you can get your hands on a grocery anchored shopping center, that increases your chances of high occupancy, increases your chances of getting higher rent, and definitely a great asset to hold long term. So this was trend number 3 out of a 9-trend series that we created, predicting what's going to be in 2026 retail real estate, especially in the DFW market. We are reviewing the retail real estate trends for 2026, and this trend is talking about tenant preferences. I'm Joseph Goslang, your retail navigator for the Dallas-Fort Worth market, founder of the Eureka Business Group. And what we found in our research, going back from 2025 and what we predict for 2026, this is trend number 4 in a series of 9 trends that we predict. And what we see is that tenants have a preference to go towards the more quality, nicer looking. If it's newer or just has been refurbished, it's fine, but they want nicer looking shopping centers. They don't want to go into something that looks old, that looks ruggedy, that the parking lot has potholes, that the building looks like it's falling apart. They want quality. So we see tenants in today's world willing to pay more per square foot and go to the nicer properties than to get a discount on the rent and go to less quality shopping centers. So if you're a shopping center owner, especially in the DFW market, it's worth putting the CapEx and improving your property, making it look better so you can push your rent. Sometimes we've seen it push 40, 50% once the property is fully refurbished. So definitely worth looking at it. And while you're putting CapEx, there's a lot of other things that you can consider. Talk to your local broker, or better yet, talk to us, and we'll help you figure out what tenant really wants in 2026 to make your shopping center the most valuable thing you have. Hey everybody, Joseph Goslang with the Eureka Business Group, your retail navigator for the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And today we're talking about a new word, medtail. What does it mean, medtail? It's a combination of the word medical and the word retail. In this video series, we're covering 9 retail real estate trends that we're predicting are going to be very, very strong in 2026, specifically in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Medical sitting in retail location is not new. We've all seen the dentist that sit in the shopping center. But what we've seen in the last few years is that there is a shift going forward, that a lot more medical providers are choosing to go to retail environment. And that became so prevalent that the commercial real estate industry gave it a name, medtail, a combination of medical and retail. So which medical providers go and sit in retail locations? It's the dentist, it's the orthodontist, it's the ophthalmologist and your podiatrist and everybody that doesn't need to be in a heavy hospital environment. They go into retail location. What do they get from that? They get visibility. They don't have parking issues. Retail always have a lot more parking spaces than office. They get the opportunity to expand if the next door neighbor is moving out. That doesn't exist in the small medical environments that they might be confined to so far. We predict that by the end of 2026, about 20% of all retail spaces are going to be consumed by medical providers. So definitely a trend you want to pay attention to, especially if you're a shopping center owner. Make space, accept those medical uses. They bring traffic, they bring interest, and they take long leases and they're very good tenants. That was trend number 5. Amazon is not really killing all the retail. Yes, they are killing some parts of retail, but not all of it. I'm Joseph Goslang, founder of the Eureka Business Group, your retail navigator for the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And today we're talking about trend number 6 in the series of 9 trends that we predict in 2026 will impact retail in DFW. In this video, we're talking about a trend that we've seen going on for years and is definitely going to carry forward into 2026. And that is our shopping centers, our retail centers are transitioning from soft goods into service-based. What does that mean? Historically in retail, we used to see shoe stores and we used to see stores that sell appliances and house goods and so on. But Amazon has been killing those for years. But what we do see is we see a transition going on in the shopping centers, moving from those soft goods into service-based retail. What is service-based retail? We see the medical. Check out the previous trend we talked about medtail. We see physical therapy, hair salons, nail salons, fitness centers, and so on. They're all coming in. They're all service-based. So they're not selling a specific product, but they're servicing the clients. Another big trend for 2026 is entertainment-based retail. That's our next video in the series. We'll talk about that in detail. But altogether, we see shopping centers transition. What does that mean? It means that as a landlord, As a shopping center owner, you need to pay attention to the trends. You need to be smart about your tenant selection and who's the right tenants that are going to complement each other and which tenants are not going to be good together. This way, when you have a strong tenant mix in your shopping center, it looks better, it's attracting other tenants to come to your shopping center, and overall you'll have a great producing asset. And if you're a tenant, you're coming in, you're a service-based tenant, look at around the shopping center, what other services are in there? Are they going to complement my business or are they going to cannibalize on my business? I want to be in a productive environment. I want to be in an environment where I'm not competing against my next door neighbor. In fact, I'm enhancing their business and they're enhancing mine. Short and sweet, that's trend number 6. New construction in 2026 is just too expensive. The cost of everything just skyrocketed since 2020, and we're dealing with the consequences today. It becomes almost impossible to do a new construction and still justify the new rent as they keep pushing higher and higher. We're seeing in the Dallas-Fort Worth market rents upwards in the high 40s and mid 50s before triple net, and that is just absolutely unsustainable for a pizza shop or a donut shop or any one of those small businesses. So what do we see people do? Well, we've seen investors kind of transition to adaptive reuse. They're going to look for an older property, something that either looks a little bit run down or tired, or something that is not retail but can be converted to retail. Think like a medical office that just sits on a very busy street with a lot of traffic count and can be easily converted into retail with the zoning. Or maybe it's an old metal building that just sits on the highway or sits on really good corridors of traffic, and the city would love to see a nicer property up there. So we see a lot of developers and construction companies, what they do is they come in and they take that older building and they put new facade on it. They put a new face and do an uplift, they redo the parking lot, and it looks amazing. It looks like a brand new construction with maybe a third of the cost of new construction. So we've seen that as a trend that is coming in 2026. We definitely see that as a growing trend and taking over a lot of the older properties getting renewed, and that's a great trend for retail in DFW. Hey everybody, Joseph Kozlan with Eureka Business Group, your retail navigator for the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And today we're talking about a new word. It's called retailtainment. What does that mean? It's one of the trends that we predict is going to be prevalent in 2026. It's been dominating 2025, and we see the momentum forward. This is where a lot of the retail spaces have been consumed by entertainment type of usage. What is retailtainment? It's a combination of the word retail and the word entertainment. This is where entertainment type concepts are moving into retail spaces. I want you to think about VR arcades. I want you to think about escape rooms. I want you to think about anything that gives an experience. And the biggest example is the Netflix house, where they created a whole experience around their shows like Stranger Things and the Squid Games. This is huge, and this is coming, and this is consuming spaces. We see that all over the Metroplex, and we see that honestly all over the country. And this is a very important trend. And why it's important? It's important for the landlords to know what kind of tenants are coming. They got to have their shopping centers ready for that. Another very interesting concept we see is we talk to a lot of economic development people from different cities, and they all tell us, if we get this kind of tenant or this kind of user, we are willing to contribute some money into it because it enhances the community. It brings people together. And if you own a property that has that entertainment concept in there, they drive traffic. People are coming in, they're spending an hour, they're spending 2 hours inside your shopping center, and then when they get out, they shop the other tenants. So that's a great plus for your shopping center as well. So retailtainment, a new word for 2026. If you're in commercial real estate, especially retail, you need to know about it. It's a trend, it's here, it's not going away anytime soon. That's it. Let's talk about a new trend we're seeing in 2026 in retail, and that is the aging of retail. And no, I'm not talking about the buildings getting older. I'm not talking about what we would hear a Gen Z say, retail is for old people. That's not it. Kind of, but not really. What we're seeing is with the aging of the population, there's a ton of baby boomers that are actively becoming more prevalent in the retail world. They don't want to sit at home. They want to be out and about. They want to spend. They want to go to restaurants. They want to go to experiences. And they are becoming a bigger segment of the population that is putting out the cash and spending in all those retail locations. So as we see the population getting older and they become more prevalent in the customer segment, then retail needs to adjust. Retail buildings needs to have more accessibility, wheelchair ramps, easier walkthroughs, and so on. So we're going to have to talk with developers about what are you doing today that will fit the fact that we see a trend of more and more of the customers that actually show up at the shopping center are older, and they have different needs and they have different preferences. And obviously we talked about in previous trend videos, we talked about the fact that entertainment becoming more prevalent, medical become more prevalent, and it all ties down back into the population that we see more of the older population, the baby boomers, the retirees, going out into those locations. That is trend number 9. Retail has to adapt to the older population. We created 9 trends for 2026. It's a series of videos, but we also have one big article. If you want to see all of them in one place, we'll put a link in the video below to our website where you can read the entire article. I'm Joseph Goslan with Eureka Business Group, your retail navigator for the Dallas-Fort Worth market. If you need anything retail in the Dallas market, give us a call, shoot me a message. I'm happy to help.